Morning everybody, Phil Henry here from the Capricornia Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with Jason Foss, the President. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Phil. Good morning, everybody. So we've got a big week this week. It's week commencing 16th of September, and we are spending a lot of time this week interviewing all of the candidates for the upcoming state election that we could track down. We've missed a couple that we couldn't track down, but we have got all of the majors. So we've got both red shirts, both blue shirts, both orange shirts.
And also the independent candidate for Rockhampton.
Of course, independent for Rockhampton as well.
Oh, that's very
so we're chatting with all of those this week. Now, everybody has a list of the same 6 questions, and we've capped their answers at a maximum of 90 seconds each, because none of us like to listen to endless waffle. So you can thank us for that later. So if you're watching this on YouTube, what we're going to do here is have everybody's answers in one longish video, but there'll be chapter markers down below. So if you need to skip to each candidate's individual answer, you can. So feel free to use those chapter markers on YouTube to skip around. If you notice these things on any of the other platforms though, you'll just see individual 90-second answers as separate videos. Now they're being uploaded in kind of a bit of a random order. In terms of this video, we're just putting them on in the order that the interviews just happen to happen. But of course, elsewhere algorithms play their part, and the order or how many of them you see is completely at the discretion of the magic algorithms. So Phil, did you want to run through the questions really quick?
Oh, I could, but in terms of algorithms, when we get to question 6, which is about artificial intelligence, that's what we're battling with to get them in order. No, it's all good. So,
so you want to hit us with the first one?
So the first one, it's become traditional for parties to identify their priorities for the first 100 days in office. What are your priorities for the electorate for the first 100 days?
All right, so that's a good one to kick it off. The second question that we're asking is, what are the main issues holding back business viability and growth in the region?
That'll be a good one as well. Third one, what are your infrastructure priorities for the Capricornia region? So we're just looking a bit broader than just Rockhampton or Livingston.
Yep.
Everything's regional.
The fourth one is the availability, I'll say that again. The fourth one is the availability of sufficient affordable baseload power while reducing net emissions from energy sources is a key component of economic sustainability. Why did I get the one with all of the big words in it? What is your view of this objective and how would you achieve it?
Just luck, Jason. Fifth question is the education and skills system, particularly apprenticeships, which is big for us here, is failing to keep pace with business and industry needs. What would you do to rectify the situation?
And the sixth one is artificial intelligence is already disrupting commerce in many ways. What is your view on how to manage this new technology?
And we let them wrap up with a 1-minute summary of their claims to the election.
Yeah, like a why vote for me kind of response.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's technically 7 questions from each candidate. As said at the get-go, if you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be chapter markers. If you're seeing this elsewhere, what you see and how often you see it is we're at the mercy of the algorithm. Otherwise, enjoy. If you have any feedback, let us know.
Yes, just enjoy. We do this for you, and that's why we focus on business and economic development issues. We are a Chamber of Commerce. We know there are lots of other issues that influence your vote at electoral time. We're just focusing on what the Chamber has its major interest in.
It's a good point. That's a good point. So I guess use these to help you decide, but obviously there are other issues on the table as well that we're not specifically covering here.
So the first question is, what are your priorities for your electorate for the first 100 days in office? This is an easy one. With all the community engagement I've been doing over the past many weeks, I will focus on the cost of living and getting crime under control. After which I'll move on to healthcare and education, while also simultaneously assisting with preventing bills like the Communications Legislation Amendment, Combating Misinformation and Disinformation Bill 2024, and assisting with protecting women and men's rights with supporting bills like the Sex Discrimination Bill 2024. I would also like to revoke draconian bills like the Respect at Work and Other Matters Bill 2024, which is a direct attack on our freedom of speech. What are the main issues holding back business viability and growth in the region? Costs of actually running a business are one of the main contributing factors holding back businesses. Local, state and federal oversight is another issue that pushes businesses against the wall. There is simply too much red tape. With energy costs spiraling out of control, One Nation has a multi-pronged approach for affordable energy, policies based around small business, and an economic recovery plan, which also includes rebuilding our region's plans. No other current party can compete with our common sense approach to business. Being a business owner myself, I know what it takes to actually run a successful business. If I ran my business like the current government runs the state, I would have gone bankrupt years ago. What are your infrastructure priorities for the Capricorn region? Again, One Nation has a multi-pronged approach to supporting Capricornia in terms of infrastructure, and with 90 seconds it's simply not enough time to comment effectively on the matter. But I will say we'll be prioritising supply chains, supporting critical water projects, allocating appropriate levels of funding for the backlog of maintenance and development of our local highways and road networks. We will streamline Queensland infrastructure planning and promote economic growth by aligning public infrastructure investment and economic development growth goals, and much, much more. On the topic of affordable baseload power, first and foremost, we have the cleanest coal and abundance of it right here in Queensland. With modern coal-powered stations like they have in Japan, for example, the air going out of the plant is cleaner than the air going in. There is simply nothing wrong with using coal for baseload. One Nation also supports nuclear for baseload. There is a stigma around nuclear power stations, but it is on an unfounded understanding. And modern nuclear power stations are inherently safe by modern standards, and it is way cheaper long run than renewables. So with regards to the education system and skills system, we are currently lacking in all trades. Everyone knows this. Pretty much it does not matter what it is we are lacking in, we're lacking in it. When Q-Build was disbanded, for example, here in Rocky, we lost so many avenues for apprentices. The same happened when they shut down the rail yards. I would very much like to see programs like this start back up again. I would also like to state the education system is failing in so many ways right now, it's not even funny. We need to bring back all those educators that were sacked due to mandates. The wealth of experience and knowledge in the education system we have lost due to fallacies of the government is off the charts. And I'm in full support of bringing those hardworking, exceptional people back, and that includes all the other industries as well. I hate to say this, but AI will soon most likely overtake us in many ways, and we have to prepare for the future. In terms of state government, what do we do here? Technology is and will continue to be part of our future, and we have to learn, grow and adapt pretty much daily to keep up with it and the modern way of life. Having the right people that actually understand this dynamic of modern life is fundamental to our future, and I would support those who can guide us through the significant change in modern life. So why would you vote for me? A spade is a spade, nothing more and nothing less. I say it how it is, hence why I joined the only party that indeed does so. We are honest people who simply would like to see people strive rather than survive from day to day. We all have a common sense approach to everyday life, which in modern terms is far and few between. On a personal note, being a father to two wonderful boys, I as a father have a duty to provide them with a future, and with the way things are going, I cannot stand idly by and watch their future disappear. This goes for not only my kids, but all our future children.
One of the advantages of being a candidate with one of the major parties, LNP, is that in the first 100 days we will be able to deliver. Unlike minor parties and independents who won't be able to deliver, LNP in the first 100 days will deliver our making Queenslanders safer laws. That includes adult crime, adult time. That includes amending the Youth Justice Act to remove that clause that says detention is only to be used as a last resort. We will be putting victims first, and before Christmas, the Making Queenslanders Safer laws will be instituted. We'll also make sure in the first 100 days that we'll address our health system that is in current situation of chaos and crisis. We will make real-time data available in the first 100 days. What that means is accountability to all of those who are in governance, to all of those who are in the management of our health system. It will bring the data to the people, and we will know exactly where we are as far as our health service is concerned. Some of the issues that are holding back business viability and growth right here in our region has to be housing and accessing qualified staff. So it is that that skilled workforce is something that we need to focus on. The small business concierge, I want to talk about that, is a fabulous idea for small businesses. Being a small business owner, that it appeals to me. $1.3 million and under, small and family businesses can access a one-stop shop. And those businesses that are $1.3 million and over are able to access a relationship manager, which is a personalised human that is locally based, who will actively pursue that business and help them out with navigating the red tape and the layers of bureaucracy, the layers of legislation and taxation that they need to know about, that's currently consuming time and money. So we're going to let businesses get back to doing business. Now the LNP government have committed $61 million to expanding the TAFE Excellence Hub over at the CQ University. So these are some of the measures, not all. There's a lot more coming from LNP. So we've seen massive blowouts in infrastructure costs in Queensland from the current government, and we've seen not only blowouts in time but blowouts in money, costing more, taking longer, and ultimately inconveniencing local communities whilst those projects are being rolled out. So LNP are committing to delivering projects on time and on budget, which is something that I am very excited about. The Bruce Highway is our major arterial road, and the state of the Bruce at the moment is simply unacceptable. An LNP government will continue to lobby our federal government to restore that 80-20 funding that used to be in existence. Now it's just 50-50, and we want to make sure that our federal partners are helping state to deliver the much needed maintenance and ongoing repairs to the Bruce Highway, for example, but all of our highways, to make sure that that infrastructure, critical transportation infrastructure, is fit for purpose. Regional plans need to be prioritised, they need to be planned, because currently that coordination hasn't been there, and we see that with our housing. There has been a lack of planning. Here we find ourselves in a massive housing shortage, chaos and crisis. I'm going to be fighting for our region for any infrastructure that secures growth, that secures economic sustainability, and that secures our economic viability moving into the future. On the topic of energy and the rollout of the renewable energy projects that we have seen as a priority of the current government, we need to make sure that our communities are brought along with this transition. We need affordable, sustainable and reliable energy base load. So the LNP government have committed to our maintenance guarantee for our coal-fired power stations, to keep those power stations open, to help to bring down that price that we are paying for our electricity transition. The community needs to be brought along on this transition. It needs to be a level playing field, and it needs to be for our communities but also for our local governments. So one of the things that LNP will be doing is making sure that we are addressing the renewable rollout and changing out of the code accessible developments into impact accessible, delivering what is similar to our agricultural industry and mining industry expectations. It is that we need to have a level playing field, that there needs to be a considered and measured approach to the energy transition. There needs to be a very good mix of energy supply so that we have affordable, reliable, baseload energy moving into the future. So our skills and education systems and our apprenticeship systems are quite antiquated. It's time that we upskilled that and change to be more responsive to the industry's expectations. The dual sector university, the one of its only kind here in central Queensland, is an advantage because we can offer those skills sets right through from Cert 1 through the entire continuum of the education system, right through into postgrad PhDs. So conversations that I've had with the Vice-Chancellor out at the university suggest that there also needs to be an open dialogue to how the national skills agenda can actually marry up with regional and state needs. This is something that the LNP government is absolutely going to continue to explore. The continuing development of AI could be looked at as being a disruptor to the sector. One of the things that we need to to adapt to is that we're not going to slow down the advancements of technology and AI. So we have to look at ways of making it advantageous into our businesses. We need to create more jobs than we destroy. And for example, the geo-resources assessments that are currently being done are saving money, they're saving time and streamlining the processes of input of massive amounts of data and making it quicker and easier and more affordable to get those resource sector projects up and running. So that's a great example of AI doing a better work in business. We've also got some businesses in Gladstone I've been speaking to who have for a couple of years now been exploring using AI to actually do their recruitment. What they've found is an amazing outcome is that there's no bias with AI as to the recruitment process. So where the human side of things we may have actually discounted employing somebody whose name we can't pronounce, AI doesn't. And what they've seen in this 2 years is the calibre of employees that they previously may have passed over actually contributing to a more sustainable and longevity in their employees, but greater outcomes for the business. So there's opportunities in AI. As having served as a councillor previously and also being a business owner, I'm acutely aware that businesses right across our region are currently being impacted by exactly the same things as all of our residents. It's either directly or indirectly. The things that are impacting them is health, housing, crime and cost of living every day of the week. That is why LNP are focused on the right priorities for our Queenslanders, making our communities safer, easier access to healthcare services, saving you paying for Labor's failures, securing our housing foundations and absolutely working harder for Queenslanders.
I've never really thought of it in terms of the first 100 days. I think I would certainly be focused on building relationships with government departments and ministers and getting on board so I can advocate for funding for the people of Rockhampton. My main focus, however, will be on the things that matter for CQ, things like the satellite hospital that we've announced will deliver if elected, things like the Gracemere High School that we've announced will deliver if elected, and things like programs for our kids to make sure they're engaged in education in the community. They're the things that I think are important. Also engaging with our youth co-responders and the police around additional supports they may need with regards to youth crime. We know we've done a good job in that space with a 23% reduction in youth crime, but we certainly want to build on that in our community. The issues holding back businesses at the moment are things like the cost of living, which we know that everybody in the community is experiencing, and it's certainly eating into their discretionary budget and spending in the community. Small businesses are also facing rising transport costs, and obviously we've seen skill shortages affecting the ability to attract and retain quality staff. And I'm proud that the Miles Labor government has been delivering on cost of living relief, and also with regards to free TAFE and education for people in those skills shortages areas. And I think that's very important that we continue to do that moving forward. So the infrastructure priorities I think are important for the region are things like the Gracemere High School, that's an election commitment by the Miles Labor government, things like the satellite hospital, which we've also committed to if elected, things like the Brown Park Stadium, which is now up and being built, things like the mental health facility that has just started construction, things like sporting precinct over at the uni, things like the ring road that we're delivering on, and also moving the TAFE grounds over to the university. These are all things that I think are important infrastructure issues, along with upgrades to our Bruce Highway. We know that Labor's investing $6 billion in the Bruce Highway around Queensland at the moment, but we want to see more of that. We want to see all of these things done, and they're the things that I will advocate for the region. Power has been a big issue of recent times, and I know that that Labor's got a really good plan there with renewables. We've got 27% of renewables power in Queensland at the moment, and 1/3 of houses have rooftop solar. We know that that isn't going to give us our baseload in times when there's no sun and no wind. So we need to invest in technologies that will do that. Things like solar pumped hydro will be in that mix, things like battery storage. Obviously we're not going to race out and shut down coal-fired power stations. They've got a role to play in our energy mix at the moment as well. The thing that I don't agree with is nuclear. Nuclear energy will take, they tell us it's going to take about 20 years to build it. They tell us it's going to be about $600 billion and will only create about 4% of our energy mix. The big concern with it is it's going to add $1,000 onto our power bills. It's going to take too long, it's going to be too expensive, and it's going to cost us more on our energy bills. I just don't think it's a viable thing to do. So we need to move with the future, move with the times, create the jobs that are needed, and focus on those renewable energy solutions. The Miles Labor government is offering free TAFE for apprentices. I think that's a really good way of getting more people, especially kids, engaged in some of our skill shortages, technical trades, those sorts of things. It's also great for people wishing to upskill into those areas. We have also seen a rebate offered by the Miles Labor government for nurses in their final placement of $5,000. Now, I think what's really important is to get more of our kids involved in learning about the careers at a younger age, getting them involved in more work experience and teaching them about what these careers involve and get them excited about these job prospects into the future. I won't pretend to be an expert in artificial intelligence, but I do know, along with the good side of these new technologies, there is a negative side too that needs to be addressed. I think the best way to address these sorts of things is through better public education about the new technologies and obviously targeted legislation to limit the negative impacts on people and businesses. As a long-term healthcare worker, I'm passionate about delivering better health outcomes for our people, and that's why I fought hard to get a satellite hospital commitment from the government if elected. As a father and a foster carer, I will always fight for better outcomes for our kids, which is why I formed a working group to get the information to get a commitment for the Gracemere High School. As a volunteer in the community, I've seen the good sport does for kids, not just for health benefits, but also for providing them with great role models, for teaching them the skills to set and achieve long and short-term goals, and how to deal with those goals when they don't achieve them. How to deal with that disappointment. As a former business owner, I know how tough it is to deal with the change in market, changes in legislation, and I will work with people in small businesses to make sure that there is limited red tape. As a long-term member of the community and someone who's worked in the mining sector, I understand how important that sector is to our community. I believe I have the right skills and experience to advocate for our community and deliver better outcomes for our kids and for those in the community.
Well, the first 100 days are important and priorities need to be set early, because if you are to have any impact over a 4-year term, you've got to make sure that you alert the ministers responsible for the changes that you're looking for and work towards them collectively. As a minor party in a seat like this, we have the important part of being able to back a government, but also to have a look at the interests of other parties that are within the next parliament, whether that be Labor or Liberal, and then judge legislation based on its merits. The importance of getting in early and identifying those issues here locally. We need further trunk infrastructure. Growth is coming whether we like it or not, and over the next 7 years we'll see a 55% increase in population in Livingston, and over the next 17 years we'll see increases in the Rockhampton Shire area of around 80%. So it's important that we do start planning now, getting those messages across to the ministers of the day, whoever they may be in that next term of Parliament. They must know precisely what our region needs, and then we work together on it over the next 4 years. The greatest issues I see holding back businesses in our region and right across Queensland happens to be the ever-increasing cost of doing business and compliance of business. They are the two things that are strangling small business in particular. We work in a fairly open ecosystem here when it comes to business. We've got a good combination of small and large, but when those pressures are applied, whether it be increased cost to insurance, compliance when it comes to workplace health and safety, industrial relations, you name it, the red tape that goes with doing business today is strangling small. Not so much big, because they are large enough that they can absorb the cost and then pass it on because they've got the benefit of having stores right across the country. That is a challenge that will face businesses moving forward. As we grow as a population, there's more inclination from big businesses to come here as well. So that competitive edge that small businesses have previously had is slowly lost. So it's important upon governments to recognise that small business will continue to do it tougher unless we take the chokehold off them and make sure that doing business here is made easier. And the other thing too, not just big business coming to town, but the online side of business that impacts upon small business throughout our region as well. We have massive growth coming, and infrastructure needs to be front and centre of any decision processes moving forward for whoever wins government, but more importantly, who represents Keppel and the Rockhampton region. What we're seeing with a 55% growth here in Livingston is already failing trunk services. Our road infrastructure, we're noticing, is more and more congested. We know that our hospital system is also failing. It is at capacity most days now, and that comes down to a number of reasons, not just population, but the very fact that our systems to the south of us have failed. So we've got a number of hospitals on bypass, and so they're bringing their patients to our region to get medical attention. We're seeing a real need for high school infrastructure, particularly to the south of this electorate in Emu Park. It's well overdue. A high school must be delivered for the increase in families that are moving to that region. Between the last two censuses, we've seen an increase in families of 174%. It tells me that so too that the need for a high school is well overdue, and other school services here in our region as well. And Great Keppel Island must be dealt with once and for all. These small, measly amounts of money that have been promised and never delivered now have to go to some serious infrastructure funding of over $100 million to make sure that our tourism icon is restored once and for all. Sustainable baseload power is pivotal to the success of any business, but also to the manufacturing that we've got left here in the country. Manufacturing used to make up 25% of GDP. We're down now to about 5%, which is making it ever more increasingly difficult for businesses to do business and compete against our overseas competitors. Baseload power is only achievable through fossil fuels, whether that be coal, gas or diesel generators. You will never get baseload power from renewables. I don't care who's telling you these stories, they're wrong, and it's doing our business sector and families and retirees a disservice by trying to inject upon them 100% renewables. And both major parties have been responsible for what is now legislated renewable targets in Queensland. For us to be able to maintain our business prowess and also maintain the manufacturing that we have in this state, we must bring down power costs. We cannot continue with the subsidies. We cannot continue being servants to the UN who are forcing this upon us, and it's incumbent upon the next government to make sure that we do away with these net zero targets that are only crippling households and businesses. One Nation have got a proud history associated with apprenticeships here, not only in Queensland but right across the country. We developed a policy that was taken to the previous government, federal government, and they implemented it not just once but twice. And our policy remains the same. If we are to give the opportunity to young people and mature age apprentices, we have to introduce a funding mechanism for businesses to encourage them to take on new trainees. In the first year of an apprentice being in a workplace, often it comes at great cost to a business, and that's why we've introduced a policy of subsidising the first 75% of their income for that first year. In the second year, subsidising 50% of their wages, and in the third year, 25%. Now, by the fourth year, a tradesperson is entering or just about to exit out of their training and they become a fully qualified tradesperson, they are giving back and adding value to a business. So it is important that we ensure that we've got future tradespeople for this country. There's no one better than homegrown talent that we've produced here in tradespeople, computer technicians. It doesn't matter what industry, we are better training our homegrown kids than bringing them in from overseas. Artificial intelligence has its pros and its cons. Sadly, we've looked at the cons too often, when in actual fact we should be looking at what positives can come from it. And kids use artificial intelligence far better than older generations, including myself. The adoption of it is inevitable from our young people, but it's how we introduce it. And I've seen classic examples implemented here locally from businesses. Take, for example, signage companies that do the real estate signs. They enter for the day their 50 signs they want to put up, their locations, and artificial intelligence will actually lift the productivity of that company by giving them a most direct route to each location, and the time spent out on the road is reduced, therefore actually lifting not just productivity but profits as well. So for any business that is staring down the barrel of competition from artificial intelligence, they should embrace it. Don't necessarily be afraid of it, be aware of its capabilities and try and introduce where you possibly can into any small business environment, because the big boys are doing it and it will be at your cost one day. Keppel has been a safe Labor seat for far too long, and we have seen what has happened in 9 years. The stagnation of what should have been a thriving, growing community with oodles of money that's been put into this area from royalties from our coal region. But sadly it hasn't. Neither of the major parties have delivered for regional Queensland, including Keppel. And for this region to grow, you need somebody that is not shackled by the major parties, that's freely allowed to speak out and advocate for what is necessary over this huge growth that we've got coming our way. In order for Great Keppel to move ahead, in order for hospital resources to improve, in order for trunk and road infrastructure to increase, we must have people who are prepared to speak out and speak in favour of funding to this region. And I hope that locals see the benefit, particularly in business and in our private sector, backing somebody with a strong voice who's not afraid to get out there and call it for what it is.
Firstly, I would say a heartfelt thank you to my community and the many volunteers who've come forward. I owe them the highest acknowledgement. And there are many people that I've talked to during this campaign but was unable to help. I will revisit their issues. I will establish processes within my office to ensure that when people come to me with a concern about a state government matter, it is dealt with properly and followed up. And I'll try to see as many residents face to face as possible. I will meet with the Education Minister's office to confirm the timing for Gracemere High School, and with the Health Minister's office to push for a full and independent review of our hospital. I will make the Bruce Highway and Laurie Street priorities. I will sit down with Mayor Tony Williams and with Michelle Landry to listen and to learn. Not long after I stepped down as Mayor, Barry O'Rourke released an ambitious economic white paper for Rockhampton. Nothing came of it, and it's been 3.5 years. The document was a summary of the things that I had been advocating for as Mayor. It's nice to know he was listening. We will use that white paper as a starting point and review and plan forward in collaboration with Council and the community. And I will regularly and actively engage with the Department of Housing and the local police. I've got a lot of work to put in before the next election, but if I am honoured with the privilege of representing this community, then I want to be ready to hit the ground running. There are always going to be issues that apply to businesses generally, no matter where they are located. I've taken the question as specifically being about businesses within our own region. We've seen a number of trends in the last few decades. One of these is that any new business of significant size is looking for government money as an incentive as it chooses its location. And over time, we've seen governments more and more willing to use jobs and infrastructure as election promises. We've been a solid Labor town for so long that we are not usually the beneficiary of government largesse. The dominance of the southeast corner has left the region struggling for air, with slower population growth and slower valuation growth. Distance is a factor too, of course, but often it's related to this desire people have to live in large urban settings with the craft beer and the night economy in full swing. I'm proud of having devised and championed both Rocky Nats and the River Festival. Each of these events were leaning into an aspect of our personality as a city, but the overriding goal was about our attractiveness to new generations, about competing for lifestyle with Brisbane. We need to continue to work on the way we sell ourselves as a community and as a region, and we also need to get better at advocating as a single voice for the big things that will make a long-term difference. The water in the amazing Fitzroy River is one of our strongest assets. I was very much involved in the earliest days with Rookwood Weir. In fact, Council was going to be part owner when I stepped down as Mayor in 2008. And the Weir has been an extraordinary achievement by all concerned. It's been very encouraging to see the development of the macadamia plantations near the Weir, but we need power and roads to be improved around the Weir to enable the best use of the agricultural land available there. And then, of course, the strategy always was for a further raising of Edenban Weir, and we should push for that. Just north of the city, we need a grade-separated crossing to safely take people from the highway across the Northern Railway and into the residential subdivision. If the state government had supported our bid at the time, then Stockland would have developed a LIDA with 4,000 lots. If this land is able to reach its full potential, that project is still needed. And then there are, of course, other things that I've been talking about during this campaign, such as the need for a high school for Gracemere and improvements to the Bruce Highway. And Laurie Street desperately needs to be improved. I asked the community early in the campaign, and there is strong support for a motorsport precinct and a conference centre. We need to make use of the industrial land with jobs-rich long-term industries. We need investment that will pay dividends in the long term, not just the jobs that come from big infrastructure projects as we are seeing now. Unfortunately, the conversation about our energy future has been hijacked and politicised to the stage where we are really struggling as a society and as a nation to have the conversations that we need to have. The cold hard reality is that much of what has been said in the political domain is either naive or unattainable. I'm not arguing against the need to reduce emissions. I'm not going to have a big debate about that. I think if there are things that we can do that make our environment cleaner, we should do so. But we have to understand the pragmatic realities of this. Coal is a part of the mix for our energy future, at least for the foreseeable future. We have been, it is the reliable baseload power, and it is in our backyard. The key word here is baseload. We need to have that underlying sustainable reliability for industry and for essential services at least. We're a fortunate nation, and we are well placed to capitalise on other forms of power generation. I never thought I'd say this, but carefully located nuclear power is likely a part of our future solution. And we should use solar and wind, but once again we have to tell the truth about them. There are challenges, and we simply can't lose prime agricultural land. There are a host of things that we can do to either offset or reduce emissions, and we should do them. But we can't stick our head in the sand. We will need a rich tapestry of options going forward. Clearly, I'm a believer in lifelong learning. I have a number of degrees myself, so education is dear to my heart. But there does seem to be a significant mismatch between the number of trained and qualified people in some fields and the level of demand. We're seeing that in education and in health, for instance. In each of these, there's an incentive system, either financial or credits towards transfers, that is still back in the 1980s. Brisbane was just a big country town back then, and people were just as happy in any major regional centre. We need to go back and look at how these incentive processes are structured and rewrite them to reflect reality. Apprenticeships are a special problem in that they rely on a very significant private sector involvement, and free TAFE just doesn't cut it. The burden still falls to small business when they send an apprentice to TAFE, especially for micro businesses that might be a single tradesman with an apprentice who is an essential part of the team. Many businesses find that they put an apprentice through only to lose them almost immediately to the mines or to someone else. Businesses get maybe 1 or 2 useful years and then lose them. We need to be prepared to pay a much higher level of financial support to small businesses, recognising that they are a critical part of the training system that we all rely on. Smart Hub was literally my idea, not just something that happened while I was Mayor. It was born of my own realisation how far we were behind in terms of the innovation ecosystem at the time. So my policy has always been about embracing and getting ahead of the technology curve if we can. We need to learn how to leverage it. Like many of these technological changes, they pose real threats, but they are unavoidable technologies moving forward. And if we don't grapple and learn to leverage them, then they will be to our detriment. Our businesses need to learn how to analyse the opportunity for their own business, to make wise choices about how they use the technologies, because if we don't move forward quickly and intelligently to embrace AI in our small businesses, then larger tech-forward companies will be able to offer services more efficiently, more customer-focused and more reliably than we are. And once again, our local small businesses will miss out. There will always be a threat when new technologies are developed, but head in the sand is simply not the solution. Active engagement, embracing both government-supported training and peer mentoring is a good pathway forward. It's an easy thing to say from the outside looking in, but the struggle is real for small business people. As with many things, there is usually training available and opportunity for support, but business needs to be motivated and encouraged to step forward and see the importance of grappling with the technology. Most of you already know me. I served as Mayor for over 16 years. I understand and believe in a future for our region. I helped change the face of our city, and I helped make Gracemere a better place for families. Now I'm asking for your support to be your independent representative, both in Parliament and within our own community. We have fallen behind in many ways. The big dollars being spent locally are the pipeline to take the Fitzroy's water to Gladstone and the ring road to bypass us. We need more than infrastructure projects that erode our future. We need the same kind of opportunities that have been given to other communities. We need new jobs and economic prosperity. We need homes that we can afford to live in, and we need to feel safe. We need our hospital to work properly, and when we need to travel the highway, we need and deserve a road that's up to standard too. I'm the candidate for people who have the old Labor values but can't quite stomach the party as it is. I'm a voice for common sense.
The first 100 days of a Chris Foley-led government for Central Queensland see the recall of Parliament to bring in the Making Queensland Safer laws. This is the first step in changing what has become a culture of crime in our communities, and we're going to do that before Christmas. For me, we want to see the real-time data coming out of the EDs and hospitals so that we can get a true picture of what's going on in these facilities in our community so that we can start working on the solutions to making it better. We're going to be wanting to look at a range of things, including the state of the state's finances, looking at the state of healthcare, looking at the state of education, and looking at what's going on in our police service. We need to make sure that we're getting more police on the beat. These are things that are going to make a tangible difference for the Keppel electorate, and something I'm really committed to. When I talk to local businesses, there's three things that they're looking for. They are looking for a reduction in red tape, black tape, green tape, but they also want stability in the sector. They don't want a new government coming in and changing everything. They know that that will harm their business. So we need to be really careful, and Brent Mickelberg, the shadow spokesperson for small business, has been here in Keppel talking to businesses around what are the logical first steps that we can take. We're going to continue that after the election if we're chosen, and actually start making those changes for the benefit of business. In terms of growth, it's the infrastructure that's in the ground. The $2 billion infrastructure fund that the LNP government is proposing for Queensland will have a tangible benefit in helping support housing, which means that we can get local employees to support local businesses and improve our local economy. Central Queensland has big infrastructure needs to support the growth of housing, to support cost of living pressures. We need to see partnerships between both the state and local governments to really get into that space. Graham Scott, a former Deputy Mayor of Livingston, spoke about, do you buy the plane first and start selling tickets, or do you actually start selling the tickets and build the plane? We know that we need better water infrastructure. We know that we need to have better roads for locals. Those are the infrastructure commitments that we're going to be making in Central Queensland, because we know that it supports the economy and makes it easier for Central Queenslanders to go about their day. Central Queensland is the powerhouse of Queensland. More than 20,000 locals are employed both in mining and energy related sectors. It is important that a new government that comes in supports and maintains baseload power, but also deals with some of the challenges we've seen. Maintenance of the Callide Power Station, which has a direct effect on cost of living, which has a direct effect on the costs that every business is paying for their electricity, is something that needs to be dealt with as a top priority, and it will be a top priority if elected an LNP government. The future of Central Queensland is education. Apprentices, trainees are the foundation for success for our businesses into the long term. We need to have both opportunities for people to be able to take them into their businesses, but we as a community also need to step up to make sure that where we can, we're providing these first opportunities. When we look at what Central Queensland University has done as the first cross-sector TAFE and university, we can see engineers who are getting hands-on experience doing certs. We can see hairdressers who may choose to do higher education parts of their courses. This is all about making sure that education is at the forefront of CQ's plans, but also sets us up for future generations. AI and the next generation of technologies are the forefront of where we're going, both for our business community as well as government. Central Queenslanders understand that these can be great gains for businesses, but they need the support of government to help shepherd them through. One of the key tenets I think we need to be looking at as a community is how we ensure that productivity gains do not equate to loss in our personal time. It has to be about balance. Over the generations, we've seen new technologies come in which could contribute to productivity, but they've also identified that we're more available, our bosses are calling us on weekends. All of these things need to be able to be considered as to how we make sure that these great gains don't end up costing us as individuals. This election is around who Central Queenslanders trust to make their community safer, who they believe is going to help make access to healthcare easier, who is going to support and care about building upon the housing foundations, who is going to work hardest for Queenslanders, and who is going to ensure that their money is invested wisely. David Crisafulli and the LNP team have the right plan for Queensland. I'm backing that plan and ask for your support so we can make a huge difference for the lives of Queenslanders. After 10 years of this government, they've stopped listening, and Queenslanders deserve a government that hears them, and Central Queenslanders deserve more.
Well, in the first 100 days of office, if I'm re-elected, I will absolutely be concentrating on delivering the election commitments that we've made. A satellite hospital is something that we have committed to in this election campaign, and it's critically important for the healthcare of our region. Also continuing to ensure that the projects that are underway are completed. The Yeppoon Rocky Road upgrade, $120 million project that I'm really pleased to have fought for, and I'm now delivering. That project I really want to see to fruition. Similarly with the Ring Road, a critical piece of infrastructure for our region. That project is underway, but I want to see that project finished. So certainly in the first 100 days, delivering on those commitments that we make during the election campaign, but also making sure that those pieces of infrastructure are delivered as well. Business growth is critically important for our region. We're actually seeing some pretty good economic conditions at the moment with low unemployment numbers. Sectors like manufacturing, for example, are continuing to grow. I've just been with All Industries Group this morning. They've doubled the number of staff that they have on working in their business, which is great to see. But there are some economic conditions that are impacting growth, and what I see and hear from people around the community is that housing and workforce are the two key issues that workers are facing right now in this region. Building more housing, this is a supply and demand issue. We have very high supply. We've seen over 130,000 people move to Queensland since 2020, just in the last 4 years alone. And that additional interstate migration is having an impact on housing and services. But we also need to attract more workers, particularly in the healthcare sector, in education, in manufacturing as well. We're doing that by delivering our workforce attraction incentive scheme. I welcomed 150 new nurses to the Central Queensland Health and Hospital Service just yesterday, and those nurses will be working across our region's hospitals. But there's more work to be done, particularly with unlocking more supply for housing so that we actually have somewhere for these workers to live. So all of that hard trunk infrastructure to be delivered so that we can actually grow more housing into the future is really important. Making sure that we've got the roads, the sewage treatment plants, the electrical infrastructure, all of that is really critical. And I'm happy to have been working with Rocky Council, Livingston Shire Council to deliver some of that. I'm very pleased that the wastewater treatment plant on Great Keppel Island is underway now that an infrastructure agreement's been signed with Livingston Shire Council. The Ring Road is critically important for the growth of our region, Yeppoon Rocky Road upgrade, but also that social infrastructure. Our health, community and social infrastructure is equally important to that hard trunk infrastructure. So growing our hospitals, the satellite hospital that we've committed to, that's a key piece of community and health infrastructure that will help grow our community and our economy as well. Certainly improvements to our schools is something that I've had a very stern focus on over the years, and I'm very keen to see more improvements at our local schools that can cater for the growth that we're seeing across central Queensland right at the moment. Economic sustainability absolutely relies on secure baseload power, and Queensland is one of the most stable baseload power generators in the country, which is why we're in such a good position going forward. We have seen so much change in terms of energy generation in Queensland, even just in the last few years. And our region is right on the cusp of some significant economic development opportunities that will generate jobs, generate opportunities for Central Queensland for years to come. I'm a power station kid. My dad built Tarong Power Station, Callide Power Station and Stanwell Power Station. It's how we came to live in this region when I was a child. And it is really exciting to see the next generation of electricity generation coming through in our region and to be a part of that. The Miles Government's Jobs and Energy Plan is the driving force for this change in energy generation, and I'm looking forward to all of the jobs that it's going to generate. We know that we need over 5,000 electricians in the next 10 years alone just in this region, so training that workforce is going to be really critical. But I don't believe in nuclear. It's not a cheap option. It's a very expensive option. It will take a long time, and I'm not a fan of having a nuclear power generator in this region. It's absolutely important for the skills sector to be working lock and stead with all of the industries across our region to understand those workforce needs. We've seen programs like Skilling Queenslanders for Work make a huge difference to workforce shortages in our region. I go to those graduations and I see those people who have completed that training going off in working in construction, in environmental sustainability, in electrical generation, in aged care. All of those sectors we desperately need staff, and Skilling Queenslanders for Work is working. That was a program that was cut by the LNP when they were last in government. We brought it back, and for every dollar that we're investing in that program, we're seeing $4 generated back into our local economy through productivity. We need to boost productivity. We've seen the Reserve Bank and the figures just this week actually in terms of Australia's productivity really flatlining, and we need it to pick back up again. So skilling people for the work that we're actually doing in this region is critically important to making sure that these industries can thrive. Well, I think with all new technology, there's challenges, it has impacts, it disrupts, but also there's some great opportunities. So I think whilst we need to tread carefully around AI, and we're seeing this on a global scale, there's numerous lawsuits in the US around AI, I think that's probably headed for Australia too. So we need to tread carefully, but I think also let's embrace it. Let's find new ways of doing things. AI can solve so many problems that we haven't been able to solve on our own, and I think that it's an exciting time. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the change and the benefits that AI can bring to our community and to our economy. I grew up here, I'm raising my family here, and I've been so proud to be the member for Keppel for the last 9 years, but I still have unfinished business. I have been so proud to deliver things like $120 million for the Yeppoon Rocky Road upgrade, the 42-bed detox and rehab centre in North Rocky that's made a huge difference to hundreds of people's lives in this community. We've seen over $100 million of improvements at our local schools. These are things that I'm really proud of, but there's more work to be done. My job's not finished yet, so I'm asking the people of Keppel to give me another term to continue on in my work to deliver more infrastructure, more jobs, and to really encourage more growth in our area, diversifying our local economy and giving our kids a great opportunity to live and work here and stay and raise their own family here too.
And thank you, Jason.
All right, and thank you, Phil.
We're done.
See you next time.
Okay, bye.